Hi everyone and welcome back to the channel. I am Akshat Bahety, and in today's video I'm going to talk about one of the most important topics which rarely gets picked up, and it's called n8n credentials. Now if you don't know what credentials are, let me give you a quick input. Very simply, when you come to n8n, let's say we are trying to create a new row or something like that, you see this particular thing and this is what we call a credential, and you click on this and you get a couple of these options. Now these options differ across multiple places. If I just go back and select Airtable node, and here I already have credential, but let's say I click on create new, you have two different options completely. It's not service account, it's access token and OAuth 2. I believe most of the people don't actually go deep into credentials because you're just trying to connect nodes. But when you're actually trying to build something for businesses, they want you to understand what kind of security measures you have in place when you're accessing their service. So let's say if you come to the HTTP node, this is crazy, like the amount of options that exist. If you don't know what these options mean, you will not be able to make the right choice for yourself. So in today's video, I'm going to cover everything that you need to understand about credentials. I'm going to take you from basic credentials that you can very quickly start up with, go to app specific ones like Google Cloud, setting it up and setting up other tools like Airtable and the popular ones. I'm going to talk about the three most popular API credentials, which are very valuable to understand what needs to be done. And also we're going to talk about AI agents credentials, which are technically AI models and how every model has a different format of it. Okay, so with that, let's get started with the most simplest one, right? So if I bring you here, if you are not on a self-hosted n8n, you are technically going to start in a simple place where technically you can just select this and click on Google Sheets. So let's say if I select Google Sheets, I should be able to just click on, let's say, create a spreadsheet. I select that option, and here I already have a credential connected. I can click on create new, and when you see OAuth 2, I can just sign in with Google. Okay, and that's easy here because I can just sign in, and once I click on sign in, it will just give me a box. I select which email I want to connect, I choose that email and I give it access to that. So let's say I choose this email, right? And then I can just click on continue because it already has access and we are good to go. But if you see the same thing, if you're actually working with the business, most of the times you will have a self-hosted version of n8n. So if you have a self-hosted version of n8n, then technically this credential will look very different, because if you're on a self-hosted version, click new and you get this OAuth to recommended, but that's on the cloud version. If you are on technically professionally using n8n, I'm pretty sure you have a self-hosted version. And if you have a self-hosted version, it looks something like this. If I click on create new credential, it gives you a URL. It gives you this client ID and client secret, which I'm sure a lot of you don't know what it's about. So the difference here is when technically you are on the cloud version, it's super simple to set up, right? But most of the times when you're working with business, you're going to use something like that. No matter, even if they are on the cloud version, they are going to make you utilize OAuth 2 in a different format because they wanted to link to a specific Google Cloud project. Now, just stay with me here, okay? What is a Google Cloud project? So, Google has its own service, which is cloud.google.com. I'm pretty sure all of you guys know about that. And again, it allows you to host cloud, it allows you to host models and everything else that a cloud service allows you to. But one of the most important parts of Google Cloud is also creating access control for different IDs. So I'm going to show you on how do you set up a project and what do you need to actually configure these credentials to get it connected to n8n. So we're going to come here. Once you log in, you will see this and you can select on new project. Okay, now in new project, we're just going to give it a name. I'm just going to write YT demo, right? And then technically, as you can see, it cannot be changed later. That's fine. I don't want to. I can come on click and create. Now it is going to create a new project for me, which I'm going to utilize to actually update my credentials and give it access to different services. So as you see, it's created. I'm going to select on project, and now you get this decent dashboard which has your project access, and you can see which project you are on the left hand side. So let me just move my window down a bit so you can see again what I'm talking about. On the left hand side, this is the YT demo project picker. Like you can just click on this and you can see which project you are on. If you have multiple projects, that is bound to happen. So once you're here, the one thing that you want to do is click on APIs and services. Okay, and very simply come on APIs and services, and now here you are going to select which API you want to enable. So let's say I want to enable Google Sheets API. So I'm just going to say on Sheets, right, and search for that, and then technically just click on Google Sheets API. It's super simple. It literally takes this one click, and this particular API for this project is enabled, but it still can't be accessed by n8n until you do two more steps that I'm going to show you, which is the most important one. You see this credentials word here on the left hand side. Again, we come back to credentials. You're going to click on credentials and you're going to click here and select to create a credential. Okay, and you can see again, you have to also configure the screen. I'm going to walk you through this, but very simply, we're going to click on create credentials first, click on OAuth client ID, and again, you're going to configure the consent screen. So configuring consent screen is simply again, very simply, let me just quickly show you this again. So when I click on sign in with Google, this thing, once I select a link, what shows up is the consent screen that the n8n company as n8n.cloud has set up for everyone. So people can connect to this service by authorizing their account. So authorization or authorization, you're authorizing your account to get access to Google Sheets, and they have already done that for you. That's how you can sign in. But when you're doing it yourself, you have to define everything. So you're going to come here and we're going to write an app name. I'm going to say n8n demo, right? And this is going to be again, in case, because this is going to, you need to input all the emails. So I'm going to select my own email, click on next. Audience, this is, I'm just going to say again, internal right now, because this is just going to be used within the organization, right? If you're using it for people, again, people outside the service can do, you can do that, but that's a separate concern. For this, I'm just going to write again my email, akshatbahety.com, and then click on next, and then finally select this and finish. Because it's an internal selection, it's super quick, and it will really again, just in a second get us access to this. So configuration is done, we are pretty good. Now again, you can click back on this, right? Again, click on the project picker, come back to the project, right? Now once you are here, you automatically get to see clients, and you can click on create a client, right? And here we're going to select application type, which is going to be web application, right? And then again, you're going to just describe what are these. So it's going to be n8n, right? And in this is going to be the most important one, is technically authorize redirect URIs. So URIs or URLs, they are just uniform resource locators. So this thing here is a URL, and we're going to click on this and copy this. So you can see it gives you an option to copy. It also says use the URL when prompted for an redirection. I'm going to come here and input this. It's super important that you do input this, because else this client or this particular app does not know where the request is coming from, and it will block it. It's for security purposes that we need to create all of these things. Perfect. And now you can see I have got the client ID and client secret. Don't try to use them. They will already be disabled by the time I'll make this video live. But very simply, I'm going to copy this and come back here, and then again, I'm going to copy this and paste the client ID, right? And then come back here and select client secret and bring this here also. Now, once we have added all these things, it now gives you the option to sign in with Google. But here is a small caveat here. You can technically just use this with your account, right? Again, most of the time, the best way is to use the same account that you have created the console project from. And we're going to click on Akshat Bahety. It's going to ask me access to do this, and I'm just going to click on allow. And once I allow it, it technically now already, as you can see, connection is successful and we are connected. And it's as simple as that to connect your Google Sheets account to this. We are building the world's best AI community to actually build real AI systems. We are offering a ton of benefits to the members who join in early. We are giving you direct calls with us and other AI experts to get you started on the journey, plus a ton of benefits that's listed here. In addition to that, we'll have weekly calls every Monday and a ton of resources which you have not seen before to help you get started on actually building true AI systems to scale your business and help other businesses scale. I would love to see each and every one of you there. So if you're interested, go down to the link in the description and we'll help you get started. Now you might have a question, what about Gmail, Google Drive and everything else? It's the exact same process. So if you just again, copy this client ID and client secret, the best way that I tell you to set up this is technically not even set it up from here. Come to home, right? And I'm just going to save this so that we have this for reference, and come to credentials, right? And instead of setting it up within that whole thing, you can come to credentials where you see every credential that you have listed. And you can just come here, click on create a credential. Now we can search Gmail, right? Same logic, exactly same. We just need to input client ID and client secret. I already have them copied. So I'm just going to, it's the same client ID and client secret. And then you get the sign in option. But now before you connect with Gmail, as you understand, we have not enabled for this particular project. As you can see for this project, the YT demo one, we only enabled YouTube. We only enabled Google Sheets. So to enable other stuff, you're going to come here, select on APIs and services, same thing that we did. So if I just technically bring you to the main, again. So if I bring you back to this, again, very simply, this is the same APIs and services, which is also available on the left-hand side. Okay, it's a whole menu. So we're going to click on APIs and services and now activate whichever tools that we need. So we're going to click on enable, right? Come back here and search for Gmail. Now we're just going to select Gmail API, come here, and technically we're just going to click on enable. Once this is enabled, it is enabled for your project. That means I can simply go ahead, click on sign in with Google, and it will allow me to choose my account and sign in with what is required. And you can see it gives me all the access. And I can just click on allow, and it will connect to my account. And that's it. It's as simple as that. It already has access to everything. You just have to do this once for all Google tools, and that works. Like, again, very simply, you can do this. The amount of APIs and services that we have here are a lot, like Google Sheet, Google Drive, Google Calendar. It's the same logic for each one of them. Even YouTube, if you want to. Okay, now you can apply this logic to all Google accounts and everything that Google offers, and also a ton of other options that are available here in the API. You can go ahead and check it out. Again, whatever is available here, just click on that particular thing and enable it. Next step that we're going to try to do this is the same logic of technically applying this OAuth to credentials. And again, I will quickly show you the full form of OAuth 2, so you never forget that what you are working with is a standard framework of just giving access to things. It's kind of like a security key and locks. The same way that you open your own house door is the same logic that you apply here, that you need specific credentials for the same thing. Now, another option that I'm going to show you here is the same logic what you can apply to Airtable. Now, if you see very simply, Airtable is one of the most popular tools that we use with n8n. And when you click on create new credential, you get two options. One is OAuth 2 and one is access token. Now, both of them serve very different purposes, but let's see. So whenever you want to search for any tool, just put in Airtable API and you will get the particular documentation for that, which is exactly where you want to go. But I already have it open. So very simply, you can see there are multiple options that I have here. And one of them is better with AI, which I can select here, and you have access to all the details that you need. So when I open the documentation, I can select any particular base that I have. I have multiple one of them. So anything that I want to give it access to. So let's say, for example, better with AI, I'm going to select that. And once you select that, you have on the left hand side authentication, which is the only thing that you need to care about right now. Everything else is completely different about APIs and everything else. So if you see here, and I'm just going to zoom in, you see every company allows or gives a recommendation on what kind of authentication you should use. So you have option to use personal access token, which is what we are seeing here, access token, and you also have the option to use something which is OAuth, right? Again, now depending on what your particular use case is, utilize that. But if you're using this from a basis for Airtable, you will technically want to use something called personal access token. And the reason behind that is because personal access tokens give you granular control. So that means the control on every particular service is very less. That means if I come here and if I open this link, and every time you want to open something, just click, Airtable has one of the best documentations in the world. So you can just click on this link and we'll see how we can create an access token. As you can see, I already have a couple of tokens that I've already created. So I can click on create token and now select the demo. So I can simply say n8n YT demo. I can select a name. And now I can select the scope. I can give very granular scope. So I can tell it exactly that maybe you just use read, maybe you just use write, whatever you want to use. It is completely dependent upon what you want. So if you just want to read the documents, you don't want to select anything, just select read. And then second option is what access base you want it to. So Airtable, very simply, these things are called base, right? All these things are called base, which has different tables and everything else. So if I want to give access to that particular thing, I'm just going to search better with AI and select that, and I can click on create a token. Once I have this token created, I'm going to copy this, bring it here and give it access to that. And that's pretty much it. And I can save this. And now the one thing that you need to see is connection is tested successfully. As soon as I select that particular token, it sees it can only show me one base, but it does not allow me to create the option. You see, I am getting this 403 error. And the reason behind that is because we only have option to read, which is like search or get a record. And now when I select get a record, now you see we are still getting an error, and I think because very simply I made a small mistake, which is technically to click on edit, and you see it needs access to all these things. It needs access to read, write and schema also. So if I come here, I have added schema. I also need to write access because without that, n8n can't really perform any option. So I come back here. Now in a second, it will allow me to technically choose the right base, and I can only choose, if you see, the base that I've given access to in the personal access token, which is super important because when you're actually doing these production flows, you don't want it to have access to everything, and that would just be bad practice. Second option that you have here is OAuth. Now, OAuth, same logic, same process, and that's why if you learn it once, you can reapply these things. You come to OAuth, right? On the left hand side, same place, you select a registered and OAuth integration. I'm going to say n8n demo. Click this URL, same logic, completely same. And that's the best thing that, once you understand the concept, you can apply this. Click on this, registry integration. I'm just going to drop demo. No need to fill any of these details. And here we have client ID, which we are going to copy and paste here. And now we are going to also click on generate client secret, right? Copy this and paste this here. And before we try to access that, we are just going to select data, access, comment, read and write, because again, technically without that, I am pretty sure it will still start throwing me the same error. We don't have any enterprise configurations, so we are just going to save this and save all the changes. Once we are back in, let's try to connect my account now. And in a second, you will see is requesting access. I can select what base and everything else, the same logic that we applied before. The only thing is now you are giving the user access. So anyone who has access to this particular n8n account or the access to these credentials can grant access to anything. That's why OAuth is a good option. It works for most of the tools, but also at the same time, it comes with its own downside that the granular control stays with the user who's using the app in case this is the developer who's using it and they can make some mistakes or changes. So better choose which is more secure is personal access tokens. But again, you can apply OAuth logic to everywhere else. With that, I'm technically going to move forward to the next topic that we have is API. And then API technically is the most important one of these things. If you're using API, at some point in time, if you are on your n8n journey, you're going to use this particular node, which is called HTTP request. HTTP request simply means you are connecting to a tool which does not have a native integration. That could be anything. Like for example, one of the famous ones that we have is Twitter API, right? So this particular API, right, again, is technically not directly integrated into n8n. So how do you connect to this tool? Or even if you are trying to connect with again, tools like Firecrawl, right? Or any new tool, all of these tools have access to APIs, but they don't have access to a particular official node in n8n. So then it becomes more important to learn how to use this. So let's say we are going to try to scrape Twitter data. One thing that we need to understand that APIs come in three most important authentication formats. I'm going to bring you to docs to just explain this to you in a second and just wait and hold on. I know this gets complex, so just stay with me. We come here and then in this particular point, we have options. So let's say we want to get tweet replies. When you say tweet replies, I simply want, if I give an input of a tweet, it should get me all the replies that are there. So if you see here, I can copy this request. You see this curl request, I can copy this and you see this particular thing here, API key. And I'm going to explain you this in a depth in a second more, but just follow me along. So let's say we want to copy this query. We come back here and click on import curl, paste it here and click on import. Now it will take a second, and as you can see, it has imported an API key here as a header parameter. Okay. Now, I don't want to make you again, all technical on how to read an API query, but very simply, when you see this header thing, it's technically a request for a header token. So an API request comprises of the following things, which are query parameters, header parameters, and the body. Query parameters are just when you are trying to send something like this. For example, very simply, query parameters are this. You see query parameters listed here, which is the tweet ID, since time, and everything else. I'm going to explain this to you in a second, but very simply, when you select header option, you can send headers which are again, different types of it. But right now, just from an authentication perspective, if I just import curl again and click on import, it will just show me this header parameter, which is fine. You can technically input an API key here. So I can come to again, I can come to this particular place. I can go to my Twitter API dashboard, right? And I'm just going to bring this and come to the dashboard. Once I'm on the dashboard, it will give me this API key. I don't want to make it visible. I'm just going to copy this, take this API key, and now I can paste this here, right? Which is not bad. It works. But the point is, it's still not the best format to do it. The better option would have been to select generic credential type, which technically means I can select one of these authentication methods. But if you see here, we have something written as header auth, which is the same logic as this header parameters. So I'm going to come here, click on header auth, and here, as you can see, I have multiple authentications. I'm going to connect one more, and which is going to be X API key. I'm going to again create one more. I'm going to click header account, click on n8n demo, Twitter, and here we're going to copy this particular same logic. We're going to copy this exact key. So this is what is the main input, which is the name of it, and the value is the API key that we have copied from here. So this particular API key goes here, and now we can technically save this. Once you save this, this becomes your header authentication, and you don't need to technically use this parameter. You can just delete it, which is much better, because in case your API key changes or you want to change something, you can just change the credential rather than going ahead and changing in every node. Because right now you are seeing this as just one node. Let's say you have 10 nodes like this for the same key. Let's say you're using different options and your API key goes away, or it gets lost, or it gets leaked, then it becomes a problem. So you technically want it to be in a credential format. Okay. So that's the best way to use header auth and why you should use it. Another thing is technically you should try to understand APIs a bit more. I have a whole video on this here connected, so you can go ahead and watch that if you want to learn more about query parameters and body and everything else. But let's come to bearer auth, which is technically another format of authentication, and for that I'm going to open Perplexity AI. Perplexity technically still uses, I have no idea why, but they still use the old format of bearer tokens, which is not great, like again technically. So if I come here and if I click on API keys, you see there are multiple keys created here. I'm going to create one more, n8n demo, and you can see I already have so many demo keys created. I'm just going to click this and I'm going to copy it here. Now, if you're using, let's say, Perplexity query, so I'm going to just bring you to Perplexity docs, and I'm going to bring you here. Again, you are going to come back here, click on quick start, and you see you get your Sonar API key, you get this particular curl request. I'm just going to copy this, bring it here, click and create a new HTTP request, so we can just have all the options. Import the curl, paste this here, and you see everything is imported. And here you see this particular authorization now shows bearer and the API key, where I need to enter my own API key. But again, we don't want it to be in a header format, so I'm going to delete this. I'm going to bring it to authentication, select a generic credential type, select bearer auth, and I already have one. I'm going to click create new, and I just need to paste the API key that I've copied from here, available here. Now the idea that you can't see this is the reason because it should not be visible. Authentication keys should stay secret, because if someone gets access to your keys, they can burn through your all API credits and your credit card. You don't want that. And then just save this, and it technically again works, because bearer tokens are pretty simple. You just have to input the copy and paste that API token here, and that's pretty much it. So the best way to recognize this is, yes, you need to do a bit of heavy lifting, is technically you need to read the docs. So you need to read, so the best way to recognize which authentication to use, you need to read the docs, and here if you see bearer, and that's why you want to use that. And that's pretty simple, but it's fine. The last option is technically API keys, which I'm going to cover in just one shot. So for that, we are going to come here, and let's say we want to click and create an AI agent, right? And I select an AI agent. Here you always want to connect and chat model. And if I click on chat model, you have multiple options, but most of them just work on a simple format, which is an API key, because they want to keep it simple for people to use it. So we're going to use the most popular one, OpenAI. As you can see, I already have credential, but let's say I click on new credential. Here, I technically need to input an API key, which is the easiest format, and I believe most of you already know this. But we're just going to come to OpenAI API key. So anytime you want to get anyone's API, just write OpenAI API and search for it, or do a Perplexity search, and you come here, get to this platform. It's the simplest format. Click on dashboard, and once you're on dashboard, you come to API keys, and in API keys you can just click on create new key, and I'm just going to do n8n test YT and click on create secret key, and then again I can copy and paste this. But one thing that you did see was very simply n8n demo. You have option to restrict the permissions here. You can choose which models to have, which details to have, what it can have access to, what it can not have access to. That's up to you, but you have to define that within the API key scope. So if you're giving it all the permissions, it can do everything it wants, which I would not recommend in a production project, because it can go wrong, very wrong. You technically want to have restricted options. This works in the same logic for every API key. So let's say we just go to the key that we created, which I've already copied. I can just come here and paste it here. I can input an organization ID if I want to, right? Only if I have multiple orgs. I have a personal account right now, so I don't have multiple orgs on that. And I can just click on save. And once, okay, wait, I don't think I copied it properly, so I'm going to click on again. I'm going to click on create a new key, n8n test, and I'm just going to click on create secret key. Copy this properly this time and just paste this. and now this time it should connect, and that's it. And in case your API key just changes, you can use this. The best way is because you have an API key as a credential, you don't have to worry about again changing the credential or something like that, because you are not saving it as a variable or something. You are storing it in a proper format. And that's why every time you set up a new n8n, the best thing you should do is go to home, click on credentials, and add all the credentials that you're going to use, because it works perfectly like that. Now with that, I hope you understand why credentials are important and what you need to do with them. The best way to understand this is to actually do this yourself. Go ahead and see different tokens, do it and see different credentials, and start implementing this. And if you enjoyed the video, please like, share, and subscribe. Helps me out a lot, and I would love to see you in the next one. Till then, bye-bye.